A month into the US-Israel war on Iran, fresh strikes, widening regional threats, and rising economic fallout are deepening fears that the conflict could expand into a broader Middle East confrontation. At least 5 people were killed and 7 others injured after a joint US-Israeli strike hit a residential air unit in Iran's northwestern city of Zanjan early on Saturday, according to Iranian media reports. Separate reports said the Iran University of Science and Technology in Tehran was also struck during the latest waves of attacks. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Israel, acting in coordination with Washington, had also targeted 2 steel factories and a power plant. Writing on social media, Araghchi said the strikes contradicted the US president's extended deadline for diplomacy and warned that Iran could exact a heavy price for what it described as Israeli crimes. Israel said it detected a missile launch from Yemen, the first such incident since the war began, even as US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Washington expected military operations to conclude within weeks rather than months.
The Department of War has consistently outlined we are on or ahead of schedule in that operation and expect to conclude it at the appropriate time here in a matter of weeks, not months, and the progress is going very well. Obviously, we have some work to do. We have to finish the job, and we are finishing that job.
1 month after the United States and Israel launched strikes on Iran following a failed nuclear negotiations, the conflict had spread across the Middle East, killing thousands and triggering what analysts described as the most severe disruption to global energy supplies in modern history, fueling inflation fears worldwide. Israeli forces said they continued striking targets across Tehran while monitoring what they described as expanding regional threats. Concerns about a broader war intensified after Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi movement warned it prepared to act if escalation against Iran and what it called the axis of resistance continued. Although the group did not specify how it might intervene, analysts say Houthi involvement could significantly widen the conflict due to the group's ability to strike distant targets and disrupt shipping lanes around the Arabian Peninsula and the Red Sea, tactics previously used during the Gaza war following October 2023. Speaking after meeting group of 7 counterparts in France, Rubio said the United States was on or ahead of schedule in its military campaign and expected operations to conclude within weeks. However, the war has exposed division between Washington and several traditional allies that have largely avoided direct involvement. US President Donald Trump suggested the lack of allied support could have implications for NATO, questioning whether the United States should continue extending security guarantees to partners who, he said, had not backed Washington during the conflict. The NATO Charter states that an attack on one member is considered an attack on all, obligating collective defense. Rubio also urged European Asian countries reliant on trade through the Strait of Hormuz, a critical maritime corridor now largely blocked, to contribute to securing safe passage. While he maintained US objectives could be achieved without a ground invasion, he confirmed additional troop deployments aimed at providing strategic flexibility if conditions change. Washington has already dispatched thousands of Marines aboard an amphibious assault ship headed to the region, with thousands of airborne troops also expected to deploy. The buildup has heightened fears that the conflict could evolve into a prolonged ground war. Meanwhile, financial markets sharply reacted to the continuing instability. Global stock markets fell on Friday, while Brent crude surged over $112 per barrel, a rise of more than 50% since the war began. In the United States, diesel prices in California climbed to a record average of $7.17 per gallon, increasing domestic political pressure on the White House. Despite ongoing military activity, Trump has repeatedly emphasized that he describes as productive negotiations aimed at ending the conflict, even as Tehran continues to deny that direct talks are underway. This week, Trump extended by 10 days a deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz or face strikes targeting civilian energy infrastructure. Although those strikes remain paused, missile and drone attacks have continued across the region. An Iranian strike on an airbase in Saudi Arabia wounded 12 US military personnel, 2 of them seriously, according to a US official. Israel said it detected additional incoming missiles from Iran, while Syrian state television reported explosions over Damascus caused by Israeli interception systems. The United Arab Emirates and Bahrain also reported missile attacks, with 5 people injured and fires breaking out after an intercepted missile fell near Abu Dhabi's Qazad economic zone. With military exchanges continuing alongside uncertain diplomatic efforts, the conflict remains volatile, raising growing concern that the war could expand further, with consequences reaching far beyond the Middle East.